This happened when I was 9 years old. By that time, me and my family lived in a pretty normal small house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It wasn't anything special, just a standard 2-story house with a basement. The basement was always kind of creepy, but nothing too crazy. It was a dark, musty place where we kept boxes and random junk, but my parents would always tell me not to go down there, so I didn't. One day, when I came home from school, I was feeling sick and tired, so I decided to go straight to my room. I didn't really talk much to my parents that day, just went to my room and laid on the bed. But as I was trying to relax, I heard something strange. It was a noise coming from the basement. I couldn't quite describe it at first, but it sounded like someone, moving around down there. I thought maybe my parents were down there getting some things out of storage. It was a little weird though, because they never went down there without telling me. But then, it got worse. The noise started to sound like someone was pacing back and forth, like they were waiting for something. I didn't think too much about it, but I did feel a little uneasy. I just tried to ignore it, but my curiosity kept pulling me toward that basement. After a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I quietly got up from my bed, tiptoed out of my room, and stood at the top of the stairs listening. The noises were louder now, footsteps, shuffling, and the sound of something scraping against the floor. My heart started to race. My mind was telling me to stay upstairs, to not even look, but I couldn't stop myself. I slowly crept down the stairs, careful not to make any noise. The basement door was cracked open just a little, and I could see a faint light flickering from below. I knew my parents weren't down there, because they always turned off the light when they weren't using the basement. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw something that still haunts me. There was a man standing at the far end of the basement, looking at me. He was dirty, his clothes were torn, and his eyes were wide open in a way that seemed unnatural. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, staring. His face looked like he hadn't showered in months, and there was something off about his appearance. His body was thin, almost sickly, and he had this strange, twitchy movement to him. I didn't know what to do. I froze, not knowing whether I should scream or run. But before I could make any kind of decision, the man took a step toward me. My body went into full panic mode, and my mind screamed for me to get out of there. I turned and bolted for the stairs, but I felt like he was getting closer, his footsteps loud behind me. I reached the top of the stairs and slammed the door shut, locking it as quickly as I could. I felt like my heart was about to explode from how fast it was beating. I ran to my parents and told them what happened. I was shaking, scared out of my mind, but they just looked at me confused. At first, they didn't believe me, thinking I was just imagining things. But when they went down to the basement to check, they found something none of us could have expected. There was a man, an older man, living in the basement. Apparently, he had been there for years, unnoticed. The scariest part was that he had been living in the shadows of our home, using the basement as his hideout. He had no family, no place to go, and had slowly started losing his grip on reality. The reason he was so thin and sick-looking was because he had been stealing food from our pantry for months, not bothering to ever ask for help. The police came and took him away. They said he had been suffering from schizophrenia, which caused him to act erratically. He had been living in the basement for years without anyone knowing. He had somehow avoided being detected all that time. I didn't know it at the time, but apparently he had a history of violent behavior. The police told us that if I hadn't been there to hear the noises that day, there was a very real chance he might have done something to me. They said he was getting worse and that his behavior had become unpredictable. I've never forgotten that day. I still remember the look in his eyes as he stood in the basement, like he wasn't even aware of what he was doing or how dangerous he was. It's crazy to think someone could live in your house for so long without you ever knowing. So yeah, that was the time a homeless guy was living in my house's basement for years, and I almost became his next victim. I still don't know how he managed to survive down there for so long, but I'll never forget that feeling of realizing someone was so close to me, and I didn't even know it.